following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market updates and trading strategies. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block. With your hosts, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, Mark Sebastian from optionpit.com, Mike Tusaw from KnowYourOptionsInc.com, and John Grigas from Options Express.
Welcome back to the Option Block, and I'm sorry we missed you guys yesterday, but we threw a few things around, but we're back today, and we're ready to dive into the mix. But before we do, let's introduce today's cast of characters, starting off with John Grigas from Options Express. He's filling in the rotating Options Express seat for today. John, how was your weekend?
Weekend was great. Looks like we're having a little bit of a snowstorm here in Chicago, so you people out east bear down for another New York blizzard. I know Bloomberg did well last time one came through, I hear, so you shouldn't have any problems, I'm sure, this week.
I'm going to be bearing down for something else, John. I don't know about you. And, it's nice to have you on. I feel like your butt leaves the biggest mark in the rotating seat. That's my opinion. So
I've been working out. When's the last time you've seen me? That can't be the case. It's a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, he's dropped at least 100 since the last time he was on. And
right.
Listeners may have guessed that voice is Mark Tinney Sebastian. Mark, how you doing?
Am I Tinney today?
Oh, you're always Tinney. That's just
Am I?
That's just the way you are.
Sorry. I apologize.
It's part of who you are. It's part of what makes you who you are.
That was actually my nickname in college, was Mark Tinney Sebastian.
The greasy meatball Tinney sandwich?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. My weekend was great. We went to Bed Bath & Beyond, Little Home Depot. It was a really nice weekend. So,
the weekend of a married man, yes.
Yeah, no, it was great watch the Packers knock out the Philadelphia Eagles, which was nice, and watch the Seahawks surprise the Saints. So I was real happy about both of those outcomes.
And no cocaine 8 balls this weekend?
No 8 balls this weekend. Just more 8-pound babies than it was 8 balls. Let's just put it that way. So.
And rounding out our team of intrepid options explorers is, of course, Uncle Mike Tusaw from Know Your Options Inc. Mike, how you doing?
Doing well. I love being an option explorer. It makes me feel so authentic.
How's your little guy doing on the snowmobile? Is he rampaging and wreaking havoc, or what's?
We haven't had enough snow till today. We might have enough.
I think you're good today now. Yeah, you can hit back out, hit the slopes again.
It's good. He thank God he's a pretty responsible rider, because I'm not fast by any means, but I'm not slow. And when he does go full bore on that thing and he gives it full thumb, I got to sprint to keep up with him. And thankfully he doesn't go full bore all the time, and I can just kind of jog and keep up with him, because if you let him go, he's going to hit a tree and it's not going to be pretty. So Daddy's been getting quite a big workout.
I would imagine giving a little guy like that a snowmobile would be an incentive to work out.
Right. Yeah, I need to.
All right, and with that, we're going to roll right into the trading block.
The trading block.
And welcome to the trading block. This is the section of the show where we discuss what we're watching, what was moving the market today from both a macro and a micro perspective. And today was a relatively another lightly choppy day, I guess you could say. We were down a little bit at one point, and the markets ended up closing up. S&P up about 5 handles, Dow up about 34 points, NASDAQ up 9, and the VIX down 0.65. The VIX cash closed at 1689, so we're getting back down into that mid-16s range that we talked about a week or two ago. What happened on the commodity front, John and Mike?
Well, I guess in crude oil, we're still getting some follow through to the upside from the Alaska pipeline, that big thing that comes out from the north that nobody wants us to drill in, where all our oil's at, that supplies about 15% of the U.S. domestic oil. It put a small bid into oil yesterday. It looks like it's following through. But, the commodities somewhat mirrored the equities today in that, gold was choppy. I've been bearish on gold since it broke 1,400, and I was looking for some follow-through, and it's not materializing here. Gold was, finished up, 790 today, or it's still trading, but in that area. Crude oil up maybe 80 cents. So but looking at the intraday markets, it was a good day for scalping, but not much more than that. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, what I'm seeing, silver was definitely probably the biggest mover, or the bigger mover, obviously, between between gold and silver. So we had a little bit of a move to the upside in silver. And the other thing with which we're kind of tracking is coal. I know there's no coal futures, but we're watching KOL. That's one with which we've been selling puts on the way up, and that continues to rise. And so coal is definitely it's not a tradable commodity, but KOL, not AOL, but KOL. K is in carp with a K. Sorry, couldn't think of anything else off the top of my head. Is definitely something with which we're looking at pretty closely right now.
And that's not skull, like the stuff you put in your mouth. That's KOL?
KOL, not skull, but coal.
So all you Southern fans, that's KOL. Right?
Yeah, so it goes, you've got coal.
That coal looks like it's a fairly heavy name. They did 500 contracts today.
Couldn't they have just got the COAL for their ETF? I mean, that would make it
a little more fun.
Yeah, because people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to shop. I don't want that Kohl's department store. That's what
well, literally, I was telling a
that.
client about coal, and I said KOL, and they were starting to get mad at me. They're like, why are you recommending I invest in AOL? And then I'm like, no, KOL.
KOL.
Is that a new ETF there? Or
it's fairly new. It invests in coal-based companies, so it's Market Vectors Coal is the name of it. So
yeah, so is it a lot of Canadian companies then mostly and stuff, or is it all U.S.?
It's a lot of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. That's definitely an interesting little play. The volume on this sucker is really light.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. They did 500 contracts today.
Yeah, I mean, well, and which is one in notional share value is 1/10 the total volume that traded in the ETF itself.
It's got an open interest of 9,000 contracts. Today was a heavy day, actually. They usually do 300 and some odd contracts, so today actually was a big day.
Yeah, and this is one, just for the record, we don't do a lot of frequent trading on the options. We're just selling puts. We'd be happy to own it, and typically we'll just let the put expire worthless or get out at a nickel or something along those lines. But it's not one with which we do a whole lot of trading on, but definitely has been something to watch that we've been pretty excited.
You know what's interesting with this one, Mike, and it's probably from a lack of liquidity, but April seems to be a lot more expensive in volatility terms than February and July. Is there a good reason for that?
That I don't know, actually. I haven't looked at. We're just doing, basically, we're trying to own it, but it keeps going up on us.
Yeah, no, it's real interesting. I'm looking, and, traded close to around 49. The at-the-money vol in July is about 32%, 32.5%. The at-the-money vol in April is closer to like 33%. And the at-the-money vol in Feb is like 28%, 29%. So
that might be an opportunity for the is that an opportunity for the Sebastian reverse ratio?
There certainly is a good opportunity for the Sebastian reverse ratio there, for sure. But it would also make me think that, that would make a lot of sense where you'd sell the April put and then buy a bunch of Feb puts against it, or vice versa. Yeah, some real interesting opportunities there. But I would really strongly encourage people look at maybe the April as the sale as opposed to the Feb, although I do like having that kind of, if you add up, even with the lower vol, if you add up all the Feb sales, they should end up being a little more than the April, but, you know, you got to take advantage of that vol. It might come in on you.
Of course, this thing is so lightly traded, and the markets are so wide. You don't have to hit bids and lift offers to get anything done. You're going to be giving up a lot of that edge. And look at those April at the money puts. They're 50 cents wide.
Yeah, that's true. I'd be interested to see how this thing really trades. Whether my guess is, even with 500 contracts, you can get small stuff done a little better than that. I know when I traded at liquid stuff, I would take 15 cents on a trade anytime. So, should be interesting. This actually might be a little. I'd be real interested to see how this thing ends up trading.
Well, maybe a dangle a few bids and offers out there and see if the fishies come in to bite.
Yeah. I'll let you know when we're doing some trades for the clients, and we'll work something out under the table here.
Easy there.
Not seriously.
Easy there.
For any regulators.
Off the board only.
Attention, FINRA and all other regulators. So I assume there's 53 contracts of open interest on the Jan 48s. That's you, Juice, all right?
The 50 on the Jan 48s? No, that is not me.
All 53 contracts?
That is not me.
And then that's going to do it for the trading block, and we're going to roll right into the odd block.
The odd block.
And welcome to the old odd block. This is the section of the show where we discuss some of the interesting and or unusual activity that's lighting up our tape today. And we're kind of tech heavy today. No surprise. It's been a lot of tech names making news lately. And we're going to start it off with AMD Advanced Micro Devices. They closed the day $8.36, down 83 cents or 9% on the day. It was a bad day for AMD. No surprise, because their CEO randomly, and to the surprise of many people, resigned.
I heard he was forced out, so that resignation. Yeah, you know, I've become familiar with the corporate word and the meaning of resigned. It says, hey, you know, you could either go out with the security guards, or you could walk out with your dignity intact. So
he wants to spend more time with his kids.
Yeah, that old one. But no, I heard he was forced out. So.
You know, the weird thing about this is they just made a lot of announcements last week at the CES show. That's their big show for the year, and they announced some new products. And this CEO was front and center, making a lot of announcements and sounding very upbeat. And if he knew he was leaving then, he was the best actor on the planet. But apparently this really came as a surprise to a lot of people. And not surprisingly, the Bears were out in force today. A lot of people seemed like they were liquidating previously held bullish positions. We saw a lot of activity in the Feb 8s and the Jan 9s with everyone coming in to sell them. But this morning there were about 15,000 of the Feb calls trading. End of the day, over 21,000 of these Feb 9s on the tape. I'm sorry, these are the Feb 8s. Over 21,000 of the Feb 8s went up today. The bulk of them sales, almost 90% of them on the bid. So people were really scrambling to get out of these Feb 8s. The Jans we saw by this morning, let's see what that total has changed. The Jan 9s we saw, about 8,500 of those went up on the tape. And those, as of this morning, about 75% were hitting bids on those as well. So it was definitely a busy day. They usually do about 16,000 contracts in AMD. They did over 63,000 today. This is also following a bunch of analysts now coming out and downgrading the stock to underperform after the CEO took off. So it was a rough couple of days for AMD. It's kind of surprising because I thought they had some interesting stuff they were showing off at CES, but apparently this wasn't enough to save this CEO's job, and now people are unloading. Previous bulls are unloading what they had and are changing their viewpoint ahead of AMD. And this is a name I used to trade a lot, and I haven't really played with it in the last year or so. I'm not sure any of you guys follow AMD at all.
You know, my thought is they're kind of like, what's that team that always plays the Harlem Globetrotters? Is that the East Lansing?
In the Generals, New Jersey Generals?
Yeah, New Jersey Generals. AMD is the New Jersey Generals to Intel's Harlem Globetrotters. Not only because, and it's not that Intel is that much better, I guess. It's that they're bigger, they do more. they've got the relationships, and they just continually kick the snot out of AMD. And, you know, it's never a good thing to own the second banana in a two horse race, you know?
You know, that used to be the case. About 4 or 5 years ago, it kind of flipped for a while. AMD was cleaning Intel's clock, and then Intel kind of came back and has held the lead ever since. But AMD seems to be doing better, and that was one of the surprising announcements coming out of the CES, is that their lower power stuff was getting more traction in some of the mobile and other areas where they've traditionally been lacking. And so that seemed to be a good thing, but apparently it wasn't enough. And I actually understated their volume today. They actually went out with 75,000 total contracts today, so it was a extremely busy day, about 5 times their average daily volume almost. So yeah, definitely the bears out in force on AMD. And on the other side of that coin, very similar name, we have NVIDIA also doing pretty heavy volume today. And NVIDIA is like AMD. They are...
Well, they won a huge court case against them
exactly.
last night.
They won a court case against Intel.
Intel, yeah.
No, I thought it was AMD. They have a deal. NVIDIA has a deal with Intel. They won the case against AMD.
Now, that was part of the settlement. They had a patent suit going back and forth with Intel. And as part of the settlement, Intel now pays them $1.5 billion, and they in turn get to license and use all the NVIDIA patents in their upcoming processors and platforms. And so that also hurt AMD obviously as well, because here's their largest rival getting a massive cash infusion from Intel, a company that many people thought would eventually acquire NVIDIA anyway. Maybe this will pave the way for that. But yeah, NVIDIA closed today at 2031, down 32 cents or 1.5%. This is the name that does about 44,000 contracts a day normally. It did over 163,000 today, so they were also lighting up the tape pretty heavily. And these guys, if you were watching last week, I believe it was Rob was talking about them last week. These seem to be the every year there's a big winner out of the Consumer Electronics Show, and it seemed like this year it was NVIDIA. The stock's up almost 50% since the show, just because they came out and really, out of nowhere almost, announced a new platform for their mobile chips that seems to be getting a lot of traction. A lot of the new Android phones are coming out with this NVIDIA Tegra 2 platform in it, and are these chips in it, and it's just, the stock was just off to the races. And today, I was watching these numbers, and there was so much volume going on, it was hard to really pull any trend out of it. There was no one massive trade where everyone was dumping, the Jan 20s or anything like that. But we did see pretty heavy leaning towards the calls. It was about 2.1 to 1 call to put ratio. And we also saw, surprisingly, the net deltas. It was net deltas on the day for all the options were short, including calls. Heavy selling on the calls. So it seemed to be a mild to medium, I guess you could say, bearish bias on the sentiment today with people. I think, not surprisingly, after the stock has shot up so much over the past week, people are thinking it's going to be a bit of a retracement. On the other side of the coin, you have AMD looking bad. People are starting to think maybe NVIDIA is going to come off a bit because they're trading substantially high. This is a stock that just in, I think it was November, was trading around $11 or $12. I mean, so this thing has just been off to the races over the past few months, and they definitely seem like they're due for a retracement, and that's where the options traders are leaning as well.
I've just been watching it as it's kind of rallied up, and one of the plays I was always playing with was kind of long the front month gamma, short the back month IV, and that's actually kind of worked out in kind of what I like to call like a time call spread, and that's been a real decent play. I think there is some heavy talk about, if you're paying NVIDIA $1.5 billion for their product, then, if you're paying $1.5 billion to NVIDIA, what's the market cap of this stock?
$11.8 billion?
Yeah, it's $11.8 billion. So if you're Intel and you're paying them $1.5 billion already, I mean, what's stopping you from buying this firm out? Yes, that would be a big multiplier just on what you're paying them, but they're making money from other people, and so I think there's a real opportunity for this company to get picked up. I think that's what people immediately thought when they won the settlement, is that they've now got Intel for a big chunk of cash every year. why wouldn't Intel, who has extremely deep pockets, just pick them up?
Yeah, that's when a lot of people have been rumoring about that for a while now, ever since AMD acquired ATI, which is, NVIDIA's main competitor. It seemed like a no-brainer that Intel would buy NVIDIA. And this certainly seems a 6-year cross-licensing deal.
Yeah.
I think maybe the only stumbling block is there seems to be some animosity between the two companies after this latest round of patent lawsuits. Of course, money makes all that go away, so... It
could be like the end of Dodgeball, when NVIDIA maybe NVIDIA and Intel play a dodgeball game, and NVIDIA takes its $1.5 billion and puts it on itself, and then buys up Intel, just like LaFleur from from Dodgeball.
Can't believe you remember his name. All right, and we're going to jump to a couple little small names now after these two big tech names. Throw a quick mention to RDN. That's Sebastian's favorite one. They were off to the races again today. Mm-hmm. This up 45 cents, actually 48 cents, to close up 5.5% today to $9.35. Mm-hmm. They usually do about 4,700 contracts. They did almost 9,000 today. Those Jan 9s, light up the tape again. They did.
I'm loving my Jan 9-10 call
spread. You must love your call spread. I was going to say, that's looking pretty good now.
I do. It's awesome. The 10 calls I sold have gained 0 value. The 9 calls I bought are up 22.5 cents. That is a winner Longo dinner, I like to say.
Yeah, about 2,400 the Jan 10s went up today. It's like about 2,200 of the Feb 11s too. So the bulls are still. Of course, it was on the Jan 10s today. It was about 2-to-1 sellers to buyers on those. The bulk of them at 15 cents. So people are diving into that vertical, it seems like, and finally starting to sell some of these. There were buyers of these things for 20 cents for a while there, which was, to me, just insane. So it looks like people are starting to finally to come to their senses on these and legging into that vertical instead of buying the 9s and the 10s. Mm-hmm. And then closing it out with another name we mentioned last show, and I wanted to throw them in again because they popped up again today. This is IPG, Interpublic Group of Companies. We talked about them last week. This is a name that does no volume at all, a couple hundred contracts a day. And last week they came on the tape on the last show, actually, because it seemed like one guy came in and bought about 4,500 of the July 12 calls, and this is the stock that's trading about $11 right now. He bought about 4,500 of them for 60 cents, and 12,000 of them traded today. So this guy is looking for some
15,000.
Actually, no, up to 15,000 by the end of the day. Yeah, they gapped up 3,000 more since I looked at it last.
That's been unbelievable.
So this thing is just one strike gobbling up. I mean, this thing had no open interest till this guy came in last week and bought 4,500. There seemed like there were a few. It wasn't just this one player though. There seemed like his activity last week, I think, seemed to have caught some attention of not just us, as there were actually sellers coming in today to take the other side of this guy's paper. So,
what do you think about this? You can buy the April and sell the July and pick up 3% or 3% in vol. That's not a bad trade at all.
So that's what some people are doing because about 200 of the April 12s went up today. And which is the name that does 300 contracts all day. So I think people are definitely legging into spreads. And you probably want to be on the other side of this guy has bid this strike up out of control. You bought him for 60 cents last week. They're trading 75 to 80 cents today, all pretty much off this paper.
The 11, even in July, the 11-12 call spread's a pretty good. It seems like a pretty decent buy relative to owning the 12s themselves.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to jump in on this guy's tails at this point. This strike has been too bid up. I would definitely leg into either a time spread or a vertical where you get to sell the 12s.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's an interesting one to keep your eyes on, listeners, because this is kind of the definition of unusual activity. Someone's got an axe to grind somewhere in IPG, and whether they want to put on more stock and they can't do it, so they're using the options to fulfill their deltas, or they have a specific interest in this month in this strike. There's something interesting going on. Something is brewing out there in IPG, and it's worth keeping an eye on. This is just in the last two shows. We've seen about 20,000 contracts go up on this strike, where apparently before there was no open interest, and they do about 300 contracts a day. So definitely sizable volume for this name. And I know, Mark, you've been keeping an eye on HAS. What's going on in HAS today?
Hasbro. Well, apparently my boy Optimus Prime there's a pretty good outlook for him. Because there is some guy. It's not Hasbro. All of us have heard of Hasbro, right? We all like G.I. Joe. We all like Transformers. We all like all the board games. I think they own Milton Bradley. They own a bunch of other things, and there is a guy out there just been running up the Feb 50s, 52.5s, 55s, just throwing the IV on those strikes way out of whack ahead of their earnings. So much so that you've been able to leg the 50, 52.5, 55 call spread, or call fly, for in between even and a dime. I've been incredulous at how much volume we've seen on these like upside calls. If you look, you've got an implied volatility on the 45 line, the at the monies of 31.5, the 47s 31.8, and then the 50s 52.5s 34, 36, 37. Just major volume. Now, my theory is that because Hasbro's figured out that you don't kill off Optimus Prime at his height of popularity, that they'll sell a lot more toys.
Hopefully they learned that lesson about 30 years ago or so.
Yeah. I remember having nightmares about that movie. I was in like second grade, I want to say, when that whole thing went down. And I just had nightmares about that whole process. Ugh. What a terrible thing.
That to this day is still one of the most amazing corporate blunders and IP blunders in the history of time.
It was unbelievable. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Transformers was like the most popular toy line of the mid-'80s.
I loved them.
Oh, loved them. And then they thought the best way to advance the product was to try and introduce a whole new line of toys. Well, how do you introduce a whole new line of Transformers? Well, you could say, hey, let's just introduce them. Their idea was, let's kill the most popular character. You know, how did it work out for Moonlighting when David and Maddie finally kissed? Show went under. All right? Same thing happens with toys.
You know, not to get on too much of a Transformers aside, but recently I did see like a few minutes of that movie again, and the first opening 5 or 10 minutes of that movie are horrific as hell.
Oh, my God.
They kill off pretty much 90% of the Transformers that you as a child knew and loved, and you watch them smoke come out of their mouths and their eyes flicker to dark.
Oh, my God.
As they have huge holes in their chests. It's amazing. They get annihilated. And it's who thought this was for children? It's unbelievable.
It was terrible. It was terrible. So...
Anyway, looks like your bull has expanded his interest to July as well. He picked up 4,000 of the 52 halves in July today for $1.40.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty aggressive buy.
Yeah, he's already hurting on those already today.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, the vol has been moving. If you are a vol trader, this product has been a very fun product to trade, because there's been some chances to just scoop in, buy it cheap, and then unwind it when it's gotten expensive.
Well, it looks like he did it on a spread, actually. I'll have to see what the other side is. Where'd the other side of those 4,000 go up here?
What do you think? I would guess he sold April against them. That's what I would do. I would sell April and buy July. I mean, that would be the optimal. That would be the Optimus trade, if you think about it. Yes.
Yeah. We have a gold winner today.
Well, we'll look for it later. But anyway, it's I don't see the other side. I looks like it might have sold Feb, actually, because I see a bunch of paper going.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Did I say April? I mean Feb.
Feb. Yeah,
that would make the most sense, is unwind the Febs that are way overjuiced, and by the July, I mean, this thing would need to rally 20% for that trade to start to look bad.
This skew is really moving. Then he paid $1.40 for these this morning.
Well,
granted it was on a spread, but still, that's.
I mean, if he sold, well, think about this: if he sold the Feb 52.5 at 45 cents, he's probably not in too deep.
Yeah, he did it across the board. He did the 47 halves, the 50s. He did it looks like he did like a three-way anyway. All right, and with that segue into nostalgic 80s Transformer murders, we will close out.
Well, that is definitely the nerdiest this podcast has ever gotten.
I don't know. Mini Metals is pretty silly. Maybe not nerdy, but it's pretty silly.
Yeah, the Mini Metals was certainly silly. This was hands down like, I mean, the only thing I could have done is if we'd had the producer on and asked him about a hole in the plot based on, I thought Optimus was created at the dawn of the 4th generation of, So that would have been the only way it could have gotten nerdier.
I think we just did get nerdier, actually. All right, that's going to do it for the old odd block, and we're going to roll right into the Express/Spread block.
The Spread Block, brought to you by Options Express. Options Express lets you trade futures and now foreign futures too, where and when you want. From advanced charting and free daily trading ideas to automated systems trading and free educational resources, Options Express is the online broker for all traders. Visit optionsexpress.com to open your free account. Futures involve substantial risk and are not appropriate for all investors. Please read this disclosure statement for futures and options available at optionsexpress.com/futures risk or by calling 1-888-280-8020 prior to applying for an account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
Welcome to the Express/Spread block. This is the section of the show where we sit back and we let our rotating Options Express member take over the show and run rampant and discuss all manner of things Options Express. And John, I know you're chomping at the bit there. You've been sitting patiently through our conversations of Transformers and whatnot, just waiting to regale us. So what do you have on the docket for us today, sir?
Well, I have, if you gave me 5 minutes, I could go home and find out where my Optimus Prime is. I mean, I know exactly where that thing is in my house. So if you thought I didn't enjoy that last segment, I actually loved it. I don't recall the movie where everyone dies in the beginning. Was that in the 80s a movie came out?
Yeah, they had an actual big screen movie where they slaughtered everyone.
I don't remember that. I'll have to check it out on Netflix. That's terrible.
Download it and then prepare for a horrible.
No, I mean, seriously, John, if you love your Optimus Prime, don't watch the movie.
But I mean, I thought you were going in the direction where they started to introduce like the dinosaur Transformers. That I was kind of like,
No, they were in that movie. They actually live. They live. Bumblebee lives and Jazz lives, which is funny because the voice of Jazz died during that summer after.
That is funny.
But.
This is getting really interesting. I like it. We should just make a separate show, the Prime Cast.
I love it. But yeah, no, they were introducing. Do you remember they came out with this Rodimus Prime that was like this hot rod character, and in order to make him the leader, they had to, rather than just say, "Oh, this guy's the leader," which most 7-year-olds would buy. It's like, "Oh, look, a new leader." Okay. Instead, they thought that they'd have to go with the old offing. Like it's like they thought it was like a big drama where you have to kill off a character if they quit, and they certainly did not. So, but it was like horrifying. It was all over the news at the time, as I recall, and it basically ruined the franchise. So
and now it's back in the theater, right?
Yeah, and Shia LaBeouf is doing his best to do the same.
Oh, yeah, he's trying to kill it. But anyway, one of the things I did want to talk about today is the amount of callers and new clients that we're getting, and people reaching out to us to inquire about Options Express. You can kind of, feel out people, and they're trying to test the waters with Options Express. One of the questions we're getting a lot of is what promotions are you currently running? One of our longest running promotions is our Refer a Friend promotion that a lot of our existing clients use. So if you know someone at Options Express and you want to send them a link, you get to choose from 10 free trades, $100, or I know Tusa, if you saw him on the street, what he usually chooses, it's the Options Express gear. He's always loaded up in the free jackets and free hats when he's not shopping at where does he shop at, Mark?
The OX Marketing Closet.
Dollar General.
Dollar General.
So
when he's not at Dollar General, he is raiding I started laughing before I get it out. He's raiding Barry Manilow's wardrobe, as they say in Breakfast Club. I worked on that all day. That delivery was horrible. But so besides Refer a Friend, we also have another promotion that we're running with Motley Fool. A lot of people who are in the business or a lot of traders are probably familiar with their website. I ran across it about 5-6 years ago. It's a great website, one of my favorites, something that I read every morning. But we have a small promotion going with them right now. If you're able to fund the account with $500 and make 20 trades, we deposit $500 in the account. So I mean, it's a pretty good deal. You could check Motley Fool or check Options Express for more details on it. Obviously, there's a ton of fine print, but that's how we keep our lawyers employed here as well. Another thing we had people calling about was the Goldman Sachs article today. I don't know if any of you had read the article that came out. I think they posted it late afternoon yesterday, but Goldman Sachs was going to open up and disclose on, and I have my fingers up and I'm quoting, how they make money. So, did anyone else?
That's a quote of the week right there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, here's my theory. Whatever they say, do the exact opposite and you will make money, because they're certainly not going to – they're going to disclose everything that doesn't make them money. And it's ridiculous. Because no one's going to say, we front run. Like, they could just do that. How do you make money? We front run. That's really easy. But I don't think they're gonna cop up to that.
No, there was a dozen jokes going around the office. One, they would just totally blow it off and say, stamp collecting, expensive wines, or they would just, be honest and say, we front run, we flash trade, we make markets on swaps that don't have, value, and we determine the value and make money on both sides,
Right.
So, Goldman Sachs, I don't think they did much today, but it was a neat article to see up there. Because obviously everyone knows Goldman Sachs, all they do is make money. They do pay the biggest bonus on the Wall Street. Goldman Sachs finished down 40 cents today at 169.36. We did have a lot of people calling to find out why that, the announcement in Apple, and I know we'll talk about this in a few minutes more extensively, but, the announcement that Apple was moving to Verizon are going to allow the iPhone to be sold on the CDMA Verizon network. That news has been out there for, 6 months, rumored probably for almost a year. And I think the official announcement either came today or yesterday after the close.
Today.
We had a lot of people running in to Apple yesterday. Obviously, I'm not going to really pay too much attention to Verizon, but because Apple's the stock to watch. But, I'm a big person that would say, hey, like when Baidu did the reverse split and that stock, everyone says, okay, now I can afford it. I got to get in this Baidu. And looking back, it was a good trade, but there's a quick, swing trade there, opportunity, because Baidu ran up for 2 days and then it dropped by about, 7%. Same thing here I see in Apple. I mean, I was looking to buy puts on the close yesterday. It looks like the trade was to buy puts on the open. But I mean, that stock opened up at its high and just sold off, because it seems like the smart money, knows about this news and they get into it at the beginning and are exiting on the news, not getting back into it on the news. I don't know. What did you guys see in Apple today?
I agree with that 100%. If you look at Verizon, the buyers of Verizon got in at $30 and $31, $32, and the reason why it's had this nice sell-off. So yeah, the buyers of Verizon got in, when it was down in July or maybe down in November, and they're selling now that it got up over 36, 37. That's part of what we've been seeing. It's a classic case of buy the rumor, sell the news, and although I have to admit, at this level, it starts to look kind of interesting. As far as Apple goes, it's had a huge increase in volatility, and that 340 straddle, that Jan 340 straddle, is sitting there at 16 and a quarter. That seems a little pricey based on how this thing has moved in and out of earnings. I think that there are probably better ways to play this thing than going out and buying any kind of Apple vol. I don't love the way it looks. I think it's a little. I'd say frothy would be the term I'd be looking for on. So
are you dumping out of your Apple vol now?
Yeah, I would. I think that at the 320 straddle that I suggested for $1885 is now trading $25. Okay, take your 33%, 35%. Be happy. Say thank you, ma'am, and get out. If I was going to put this trade on, I would do a multi-month swap where I was buying the front and selling the back, because this vol at $16 for that straddle just seems pricey. I'd have to get short something against it. I'd probably want to buy like the 340 calls, which are 55 delta. I'd buy 10 of those and then maybe sell 13 of the. Well, maybe I'd sell. I'm just looking here. Yeah, I would sell maybe 15 of the 3 double calls against it in February. And that way you're premium neutral. If the stock rallies and the vol comes in, you make a killing. Everybody's happy. So, because it'll probably go up. That'd be my bet. Although at this point, I don't know how much frothier the stock price can get either. What do you got? What do you think there? 2 saws, 2 cents.
Froth.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
didn't your mouth used to do that when you were on the football field? You get all frothy after you buried a defensive tackle.
Foam as I'm foaming at the mouth. Big difference between froth and foam. I think with Apple, crazy stuff can happen, and where we're playing it right now, I wouldn't get into it right now. But playing it going into the earnings announcement or anything like that, I don't think getting into it now is wise. But it wouldn't surprise me to see it at 350 or 370 after the earnings announcement, just because of everything that Apple has done in the past. Someone forgot to tell Apple that it's not $19.99 anymore, and with that in mind, like I said, I want to emphasize I wouldn't get into it right now, but the way with which we're playing it is that we're still in it for the long term, but we're being very careful right now in terms of hedging. The 320-330 call spread that we did, we're basically treating it as a credit spread right now, and that if it goes down that much, we're just going to get out of it and take profits, but we're just kind of letting it sit for right now, and I would not be surprised if we get more froth.
It seems like exactly this rumor had been pent up for so long, and we saw a lot of puff coming into a little bit of inflation of that Apple vol rolling into last week. A lot of people thought maybe there would be an announcement commensurate with CES because they like to take the wind out of CES's sails, the Apple guys, and for the last few years they've had some sort of iPad or iPhone announcement that usually has trumped everything else going on at the Consumer Electronics Show. And I think a lot of people are maybe a wee bit underwhelmed, too. I think some people were hoping against hope that they would get a more advanced iPhone than what they already have. So right now your choice is now, buy the iPhone on Verizon, which is a much better network, but you're getting essentially almost a year-old phone. Or if you wait a few months, you get the new one coming out on who knows how that's going to work? Is Verizon going to offer the upgrade at the exact same time as AT&T? Is their model going to be perennially a year behind? That doesn't seem like a good deal for
No,
Verizon
it was
customers.
Interesting. I guess Verizon is coming out because right now their technology doesn't allow web surfing and phone calls at the same time. Now, neither does AT&T, but that's because you can't make a phone call with AT&T's network.
True that.
But my understanding is that Verizon's going to be coming out with like a new kind of multimedia network only to run at the same time as the CDM network. So that should be really kind of interesting. So, for the most part, it's more of a kind of who knows. This will definitely draw some iPhone business. I think there's certainly a lot of people that love Verizon that have been, maybe not in love with the Android and had a little Apple envy, and this will definitely be kind of the it cures what ails you kind of event for those customers.
Yeah, like the other part of this trifecta here is AT&T, and they've not surprisingly sold off quite a bit off these last couple of days off this news. They're trading back at levels that they were trading back in 3 or 4 months ago. They're trading about $27.90 now. They're down from about almost $30 just a couple of days ago. And
boy, if only somebody had suggested buying a 30-28 put spread last Tuesday, you would be sitting pretty. Oh, wait, that's exactly what I did. Yeah, I actually ripped out of the put spread I suggested in that for a 50% profit today. I was pretty happy.
What'd you pay for it?
I paid 92 cents, and I sold it at $1.40.
Nice work.
Yeah. How about them apples?
So dinner is on you tonight, then?
Oh, yeah. Well,
what Sizzler are we going to? The one by Mark's or Tucson?
No, Red Lobster. He loves Red Lobster.
Oh, yeah. Me and Darden Restaurants. We get along great. Olive Garden. That's what I need. So, I would eat at a Fazoli's before I'd eat at an Olive Garden. That's how much I hate Olive Garden.
All right. I think with that, we're going to close out the old Express/spread block and roll right into Around the Block.
If you're interested in becoming a professional options trader but feel a stronger understanding of trading fundamentals is required before pursuing a mentoring course, sign up for Option Pit Mentoring's Level 2 Prep Course. Topics covered will be volatility, the Greeks, position setup, and basic management of income option positions. Classes start on January 24th. Register at optionpit.com/event. For Option Block Insider Radio listeners only, receive a $100 discount when you use the promo code OI2011. That's optionpit.com/event.
Around the Block.
And welcome to Around the Block. This is the segment of the show where we discuss what's on the horizon for the next few sessions. And we kind of did what's on the horizon for us in the Express Block. A lot of us have been and are continuing to watch Apple. Apple Vol right now is, like we said, it has gotten, I like that term frothy. That's a good application for this because Apple is indeed frothy. This was commensurate to an earnings announcement in terms of some of the premium that had built into these options ahead of this rumored Verizon iPhone. And so now it'll be interesting to see what we have left to kind of juice this stock ahead of their earnings around the 18th. So coming up next week. And actually, there's a couple of interesting names. We also have Citigroup on the horizon for the same day next week, the 18th. So the 18th is going to be a very interesting day.
There's a lot of things coming up. JP Morgan. We got a nice flurry of earnings announcements coming up now that Alcoa came out yesterday. So I think we've got, there's a nice chunk of earnings announcements coming out. Now, I don't perceive that we're going to see a lot of movement out of a lot of this stuff. The way the market is trading, the VIX, even at what some traders would call low at 16.89%, if you called that a volatility of the market, an implied volatility, it'd be trading at about a 7% premium. So the market is perceiving little to nothing. Not only is the VIX low, but skew on the put side and on the call side's kind of flattish. But this is the flattest I've seen the downside put curve, especially with this low of an at the money vol since before 2008. The last time we got to VIX levels like this, we would see downside puts start to see kind of a little bit of a bid on the downside. We're not seeing any of that. All I'm seeing is vol drop, sold, vol drop, sold. the market is very, very complacent. So to that advantage is you can portfolio hedge with some of the big indexes, relatively simple, against all these different earnings plays that we may have coming out. But I just don't see a lot of things happening during this time period, at least the way the options are pricing. They're saying not much going on ahead. I mean, is this what you guys are seeing as well?
I'm looking at the skew charts right now. It's flat, especially the downside. You know, that to me is and S&P same thing. You know, that to me is interesting and a wee bit disturbing. And you have to have some serious cojones, I think, to continuously hit downside puts in the S&P or upside in the VIX.
It worked from 1981 from 1981 to 1987, at least till October.
Back in the old days when you could sell anything, it didn't matter what the hell you sold.
This America, stocks go up.
Yeah, I used to trade next to a guy who used to trade for Fawcett back in the day, and he told me that when he came back to the office, he would get in trouble if he wasn't short thousands of every strike in whatever names he was trading. I forgot what it was, in some equity. If he had any long positions, he was reamed out because you didn't make money by buying insurance; you made money by selling it. And you know that's the way you printed money back in the 80s till everyone learned otherwise. That's the way it used to be done. But yeah, speaking of just I think to close it out here, one of the other names I just mentioned, Citi. We're getting a lot of interesting feedback and questions on that on our site. Obviously, this is a name that tops the most actives every day. People are getting in and out of Citi on a regular basis. We're getting a lot of questions now as how to position ahead of Citi. And it's one we've actually been mulling over a little bit because this is a case where I think, unlike some other names where you can say Apple's a little maybe top heavy now in the vol and some other names are a little cheap, I think Citi's is relatively fairly priced. You look at their at the money straddle ahead of earnings. It's a $5 stock. It's trading about 25 cents. The straddle I wouldn't want to buy. I wouldn't want to sell right here, which to me says it's relatively fairly priced. So looking ahead to Citi, it's an interesting name. I think we're watching. We hear a lot of talk of people saying if it can continuously break through that $5 level, then that'll open it up to a lot more retailers who can use margin on it, and then it'll be off to the races. We've been positioning a little bit longer term in Citi and some of these, I think Jan 12s and Jan 2012s, and even beyond that, some of the deeper stuff. But I'm not sure you guys play around in Citi at all.
I own shares in Citi. I'm just kind of going to hold on to them and forget about them. I got to think, I'm along the whole bank and financial industry. In my retirement account, so I'm kind of weighted a little bit to the financials, and Citi's one of them. I'm not buying options in it. I'm just holding on to it, and time will tell. But it just seems really cheap down here. But I don't know when it's going to move. I mean,
yeah, that's the question. When is it going to break through that barrier? Even as cheap as it still is cheap to do stock replacements. Even still, in that
very cheap.
Yeah.
That's the trade I like as a stock replacement strategy. Putting on. You could do the Jan. Think about this. You can basically tie up less capital and put on the Jan 4.5, 6. You could actually take it a credit. Put on the Jan 2013 4.5, 6 call spread. Now, if you wanted to get a little more complex, you would buy the Jan 2013 6 calls and just set up a put selling strategy against it. There's some real opportunities for using options to increase your wealth on this product.
And Tusa, you must be active somewhere in Citi for some of your clients, I'd imagine.
I was just looking at today. I had a client that's we're just kind of the way with which our relationship is. We kind of work as a team. Well, I guess we always work as a team, but she's very active with her portfolio, and we were just chatting about that today. And I'm more of a fan of being broad based on the financials. I don't think that another financial would fail, but I think that the risk reward is more in tune with being a little bit more on the broad based side of it in the financial section of it. I mean, we're into XLF and various strategies with that, and I think we're more broad based on the financials. I'm in definite agreement with John and the market going up, and I think that would work. And I know it's shocking of having a woman trader, but the director of online education at Options Express, as we all know, Nina Milovac is one of the best women traders of all time.
So yeah, I think we're going to close it out there with some interesting talk about City. I think we've been leaning on the stock replacement side. Sounds like Sebastian is as well. Sounds like Tusaw is more of a broad-based kind of fellow, which I would expect coming from you. You like
broad shoulders, broad base. It makes
It's the
sense.
city of the broad shoulders. That's how we do it here in Chicago.
And Grigas said he's long about 1 million shares from 2.5, so he's doing pretty well right now. And all right, he's just sitting on this show just to keep us company.
Must be nice. What you buy? You bought those on your boat, right? On your boat that you got.
Off of my OX mobile, off of my my Android system. Boom, champagne, popping corks, and making money.
I love it. Poppin' bottles and poppin' vol. That's the way we say it.
That's going to close out this segment of Around the Block, and it's also going to do it for this episode of the Option Block. I want to thank all of our hosts for coming on today, and starting off with you, Uncle Mike. What do you have coming up over at Know Your Options, Inc.?
We have a couple things going on this week in the docket. Sunday night and Monday night, we have a couple webinars going on. Feel free to stop by Know Your Options Inc. to learn a little bit more about that. And one thing that I do want to mention is the fact that we try to educate people in the best way with which we possibly can. And in some ways, we believe in helping people, but in the main way, we believe in my old football coach's adage, we don't help people. We help you to help yourself. And I think that's something that's very important in this business, and I'd strongly encourage anyone, if you're looking for help, stop by on Sunday night. We're going to be talking condors. Stop by on Monday night. We'll be talking covered calls. And when I say stop by, all I'm referring to is going to your computer, the beauty of the online generation.
Do you guys have any of your in-person events coming up anytime soon? I know you do a lot of those over at Know Your Options as well.
Yeah, you know what? We typically do events at the CBOE. Nothing in the near term. Just a lot going on right now, and we've just been kind of staring at screens a lot lately. And we'll probably be getting out into the public again soon, and we'll definitely mention it here on the show when we do.
And then, Mr. Sebastian, what do you have going on? I know we have that promo code. You might want to mention that one again for our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, make sure you check out optionpit.com/events and check out our future our L2 prep course if you're looking at maybe getting some mentoring, or even if you want to have a better relationship with your broker, such as Know Your Options Inc. Or an online broker. This is going to be a great course. I'm going to go through things like the Greeks, trade structure, risk management, volatility, all the things that really matter to option traders. And yeah, if you use the code OI2011, it'll take $100 off the price. On top of that, I'm going to be speaking to the Option Club on the 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'm going to be discussing some adjustments on butterflies, so that'll be an exciting one ahead of my course.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
You like the midnight block there? What?
The owner of the site lives in California. So to him, it's the perfect time for a webinar. And, his theory is that, you do it at 9 o'clock Eastern, you're done by 10. A lot of people will stay up for that. And, I have to admit, he gets good attendance, so I'm not going to argue with him. And on top of that, it sounds like I'm going to be down in Dallas for the OX webinar, or the OX seminar.
Yeah, I was just looking at that February 5th.
Yep, absolutely.
Super Bowl weekend?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I can't believe I passed on that. If I had known you were going, I would have gone.
Oh, no, that's ridiculous. So, hopefully you're sending some Tim Navabi down to hang out with me, so that I've got a good OX friend down there. But sounds like I'm going to be going there, and then I'm going to be at some point this spring. I'm going to be announcing a nationwide tour. So be prepared, folks. Be very prepared.
Can the mini medals open for you?
Yes, they can.
Because I would come see that then, definitely.
No, absolutely. So.
And then, John, I know you mentioned some of those referral deals you have going on at Options Express. So why don't you mention those again? And then whatever else you have going on.
The Refer a Friend promotion we have going, it's the longest running promotion. Refer a friend, get your choice of 10 free trades, $100, or Options Express gear. Again, and then check out the Motley Fool. I think you have to sign up with Motley Fool, deposit of $500, do 20 trades, and they then Options Express deposits $500 into the account. Pretty good deal, making 100% return just by doing 20 trades. And as Mark Sebastian mentioned, he's going to be at the OX Live event in Dallas on February 5th, day before the Super Bowl, so I assume he will not make the Monday podcast because you will be in jail. And we have a live event in Santa Clara, California, this Saturday as well.
I would love to come out to that. It's my kid's birthday tomorrow, so I had to give him and we're throwing his party on Saturday, so we had to give the old heave ho to him to me flying out for that. That would have been fun.
I will check my mailbox right when I get home for the invite. Thanks for the heads up.
And as usual, you can always surf on over to theoptionsinsider.com to check up on all the latest options information and unusual activity and all the other things that we discussed on this show today. And I want to thank all of our listeners for streaming and downloading and subscribing to our show on iTunes. And if you haven't, by all means, do so. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again next time on the Option Block.
Become a part of the Option Block. Just visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/forum to post a question for the hosts. You can also submit questions to twitter.com/optionblock or leave a voicemail at 312-544-9356. Make it interesting, and your question just might make it on the air. The Options Block is property of the Options Insider Incorporated. All rights reserved.